Right, here we are. Tales from the Jails with John G. Sutton. Is there anybody there? Are you receiving me? Right. This is John G. Sutton. Are you receiving me? Hello. Yeah, good. All right, there we go. Jay, hello there. Nice to see you. Mm-hmm. I've still got bits of tea stuck in my beard. Mr. Parker, hello there. Chris Higgins, how you doing, mate? Super Mallison, yeah. Well, Glenn, you're a legend. I'm a legend. Yeah, I'm a legend in my own lunchtime. You are loud and clear. Oh, good. Yeah, good you can all hear me. Yeah, very good. Robert Ellis. Yo, yeah. Oh, Robert Ellis, are you Joanne's friend, Robert? Mm. Catherine Smith. How are you doing, Catherine? Yeah, back end of Beyond. Am I right? Yeah. Says so in my book anyway, doesn't it? In my book. New book, folks. Don't forget. You got to read this. Part 3. Yeah, Catherine Smith, you're there. Yeah, it says here in my book, your photo. There we are. Catherine Smith from the back end of Beyond. Can you see that? Yeah. There we are. Very kindly did some proofreading for me. Yeah. How am I today? I'm all right, you know. You jack a few people in your time. What does that mean? Yeah. Jack Daniels. Yeah, I do that. I've got a bottle in the back. Glenn, what's the scariest moment you had as a... Well, I think one of the scariest moments when I saw the bloody ghost of John Ellis, the hangman who haunts Strangeways. He bloody does haunt Strangeways. You know, numerous staff have seen the ghost of John Ellis. He committed suicide. He was the hangman there in the 1930s. Killed himself by slashing his throat. It was definitely the scariest moment. Yeah. Oh, Catherine Smith from the back end of Beyond is reporting in. Yeah. How did you like my the start of my synopsis for the next book? You think it's going to be all right, Catherine? Robert Ellis is going to ask if I ever found anyone dead. Yes, many times. I was the first one there. One guy choked on his lunch, fell down. He had a epileptic fit while he was eating his lunch, fell down and choked on his meal and died. The bloody story went round Strangeways that I'd murdered him. I spent about half an hour trying to resuscitate the man. Good, Catherine, yeah. Thank you. Andrew Brown. Winston Green, Screw. All right, Andrew, are you there now? Great job, yeah. You like the tales, yeah? You got one? Well, send them to me, Andy, yeah? I'll definitely give him a mention on my channel. I've been to Winston Green a few times when I was on escort duty from Strangeways. It's a right dump, isn't it? Or it certainly was 40 odd years ago. Chris Higgins, what date is part 3 on Audible? I think it's going to be about early May or the middle of May. It will be on Audible. I know that it's gone to the actor who's reading it, Alan Turton. He's going to be the same one. Do you listen to parts 1 and 2 on Audible? Have I got a turban on? I'm getting a baldy head, Mr. Parker. Just a baldy. I usually wear a hat, but I thought I wouldn't wear the hat tonight. Yeah. You got both of them. Did you enjoy them, Chris? I mean, I personally thought they were very well put together with Alan Turton. I think he did a great job. You wish I was reading them. Well, I did volunteer, but the publisher says that's not how they do it. You know, they have a team that does recordings, and they gave me the opportunity to take a choice of actors that were going to read it. And Alan Turton was outstanding from the rest. One of them had a very high voice. You know, I like that, talk like that. You can't have me talking like that. No, so I picked Alan Turton. At least he's got a deeper voice, you know. Oh, you retired? You gave Fred his last, did you? Yeah. Andy, how long did you do, Andy? I managed 11 years before they got rid of me. Yeah, in my part 3 of my book, it tells how they got rid of me. Some senior officer attacked me whilst I was on duty. Seriously, jumped me on my back as I was going up the stairs to the hospital ward where I was the officer in charge. Robert Ellis, you resigned from G4S. Well, I'm not surprised. I mean, it's a for-profit organisation that's going to pay the basic rate, isn't it? The basic wage. And you put into invidious situations. I can't see how G4S operate the prisons because they have no lawful authority that I can see. I mean, when I was in the prison service, I carried a warrant card. And on the warrant card, it said every prison officer, whilst acting as such, has all the powers of a police constable. But how can that pertain if we've got civilians working for G4S acting as prison officers? I can't see how that worked. You may enlighten me, Robert Ellis. And if you're going to have effectively people with the powers of magistrates, such as the governor had, and removing the freedom of prisoners, by taking off their remission, how can they do that on G4S? I don't see that. After reading your books, I think the staff were on the wrong side of the cell. Some of them ended up on the other side of the cell doors, believe me. Some of them did. Frank Pendlebury. Hello, Frank. You're looking well, Frank. Hope you've been reading my books. It's doing quite well, you know, my book on Amazon. It's in the top 5%. That's not saying a great deal, I suppose. I did have one book that was number 1 on Amazon for about 3 or 4 days when I was managing the career of the psychic on Most Haunted, Derek Akora. You probably heard it. He was a fake at the end. He wasn't at the beginning, but then he started to get ideas about being able to channel the spirits of people like Dick Turpin. I mean, you may have seen that Mary Loves Dick disgraceful load of nonsense that he put on television. He was an embarrassment. What was the annual pay of a principal officer during my service? Well, I'll tell you this, Chris Higgins. In the last 12 months that I worked for the prison service, I was a hospital officer, and my last 12 months' pay was £17,500. Last 12 months. Principal officers were probably, when I left, on something like 18,000. But because I was a specialist, I got the higher rate, you see. Let me just stop that. There you go. Stop that. Right, what was it? John, did you encounter the assistant governor featured in the BBC Strangeways documentary? On the Borstal Wing. Yeah, I did do work on the Borstal Wing. It was the Borstal Allocation Centre. Yeah, I can't say the governor comes to mind, though. Robert Ellis didn't work in the prison, John. Nearly did. Suppose a lucky escape, eh? Well, Robert Ellis. Yeah, I'm sure it was a lucky escape. Catherine Smith. Oh, yeah. What do you think of Manchester Council asking the Home Office to shut it down? Yeah. Have you ever seen it, Catherine? You go to Manchester. Go and have a look. I mean, when I worked there in 1975, I started January 1975. The tower at Strangeways was a big landmark in the middle of Manchester. Yeah, just on the way to Cheetham Hill there. Now you can't see it because Manchester's it's shot up. It's like a miniature New York now. And the prison absolutely looks like a blot on the landscape. It should be shut down. It's bloody 140, 50 years old. 1868 it was built. You went round it in a car, yeah. That's the best way to see Strangeways. At speed. Keep going. AJ Jones, is Strangeways near Salford? Yeah, it's very near Salford. Salford and Manchester merge into one, you see. Strangeways prison replaced the old the Bailey. They had a prison at the side of the River Irwell. Yeah, so you got Bury New Road. The other side of Bury New Road is the River Irwell, and up on the other side is now Strangeways. It was built on the land that was previously a park. It was called Strangeways Park. That's why Strangeways is called Strangeways. It's got nothing to do with Norman Brown's crazy behaviour, although it probably should have. Andrew, I always remember happiness was door-shaped. We never got paid enough. But the comrades were good crack. Yeah, usually. Not all prison officers were total bullying, drunken bastards. Just unfortunately, there were quite a few of that type at Strangeways. What entrance exams to join the prison service? I did have to take exams. I didn't have to do role play, although we did have to do role play at the training school, and we were assessed before we were sent to the training school in the prison. You had to do a 2-week induction course, and you were evaluated everywhere you went by principal officers and chief officers who wrote reports on your behaviour during the time. Then you were sent to the training school, where you were in the training school for 3 months. I went to the training school just outside HM Prison, Lay Hill in Somerset, near Bristol. Yeah. The entrance exam was fairly straightforward. I mean, I looked at it and I thought, this is some kind of a joke. It really was. I mean, there was questions such as, what would you not measure a length with? A rope, a chain, or an elastic band? Seriously. I mean, how could you not pass the damn thing? But lots of people didn't pass. I just wonder how. Catherine, if they turned it into a museum, would you be tempted? I'm tempted to go back and piss on the door, Catherine. No, I probably would. I'm going to donate that lightning conductor because I've got the lightning conductor from the top of Strangeways Tower that was first there in 1868. And when they refurbished it, I was in charge of security for the actual detail. And when they knocked it all down, all the lightning conductors, and replaced them, I asked the if I could have it, and he broke it off with an hammer, and I've got it. It's in my office somewhere. It's not far away. Yeah, I'd donate that to the and probably my books as well because they're a history, and I will be there eternally anyway because they will constantly run the 1979-1980 documentary Strangeways. It was directed by Rex Bloomstein of the BBC. Yeah, so I would definitely go back. Yeah, I'm not frightened of the place. I mean, it stinks like, but that's a jail, isn't it? Was Norman Brown still governor? No, he wasn't, Mr. Jones. He'd resigned. He left. He'd retired by then. I think he retired about 1986. He was still the governor when I left. In fact, I think he was instrumental in getting me out of there. It's in my book, in part 3 of my book, What Happened. Chris Higgins, was the training school where you ended up in there? Oh, that's right, yeah, Chris, yeah. Paul Collins, his name was. I call him Paul C in the book, but his name was Paul Collins. He was a member of, he left the service and went to work at Liverpool, and he was a member of Liverpool City Council for a period of time. He did fall in the pig shit. That's not a joke, that. And he absolutely stunk of it. The people in his dormitory were absolutely wild. It stank the place out. Were there ever boxing matches while you were there? Just on TV, that, Robert. Yeah. No boxing matches. Plenty of punch-ups and people getting shanked. One of my mates got slashed right down the side of his face, and when I got to him, all the side of his face was flapped off. It's terrible. Shanks, yeah, but no boxing matches. Plenty of punch-ups. What do lifers do to pass their time? Well, Sam, they fall into a kind of the regime, and basically a lot of them study if they're reasonably intelligent, because not all lifers are nutcases, you know. They study or they read books and play chess, and the lifers wing at Wormwood Scrubs, they had the likes of Gordon Goody on there and Tony Lambriano and all that lot. Serious gangsters, you know. They had a little clique, and they had like a cooking club where they would make their own food and swap it between them. You know, one would do the meal one day and one would do it the other. And I tell you what, Tony Lambriano was a real cook. Yeah. What do lifers do? Did they tell officers to behave when they were filming? They must have given you orders on how to behave in front of telling. No, Chris, they didn't. The governors and the principal and chief officers said nothing. But they were filming one day. You'll see the scene where all the staff are on the rotunda waiting for the bell for lunchtime, and the normal practice was for the staff to actually run out of the prison so they get to the gate first. I went round the staff and said, "Listen, they're filming here. If you run out there, we're going to look like a right bunch of wallies." Yeah, I said, "So walk. You can walk fast, but do not run. We're going to look like idiots." So they all listened to me, and They walked. You can see it. They're walking fast, but they aren't running, and they usually used to run. Yeah. Boris, how are you doing, Boris? Shallow grave, eh? How are we doing? Are you doing the monster mash there, Boris? What's this? Did you ever meet any genius escape artists? Uh, Not really. I met a lot of inmates who had attempted escape, but they were put on what's known as the escape list. They call it the E list, and they had to wear a yellow stripe right down the jacket and down the trouser legs, indicating that they were an escape list. And they had a book, everywhere they went, they had to go, they had to have a book along with the category A's, you see. Yeah, but I didn't. I knew one genius escape artist. Yeah, the way he escaped was he forged or got his colleagues outside the prison to forge a bench warrant supposedly from Manchester Crown Court. It wasn't. They'd forged it, but it was presented at the prison, and he was released on a forged bench warrant. When he came out, he was actually a friend of mine, and you will know who he is. He was very well known for a long time as the crime correspondent for the Guardian national newspaper, Eric Allison. He escaped from Strangeways. Are you Mancunian, John? I'm from Blackburn, and you sound so. I'm not exactly from Manchester, although I was raised from the age of about 3 up to being 9 in the area of Manchester known as Prestwich. I'm originally from a village not far from Blackburn, actually, called Foleridge, which is just the other side of Colne on the way towards Skipton. A nice, quaint little village, actually. In fact, I'm going back there on the 19th because my friend, who was born a week after me, he just recently died on Thursday. Big Barry, 6'8" and 23 stone. Gone. Nice guy as well. I'm very well, David Lloyd. Thank you for asking. Oh, the robot prisoner. Believe me, he didn't whack my mate, give him such a. He walked like that. My mate said something to him, you stupid little bastard, and he went, bang, right on his snot box. It was a terrible mess. Yeah. And you couldn't charge him because he was insane. He ended up in bloody Broadmoor. I tried to stay away from the man. I could see he was bloody dangerous. Banana suit, eh? Oh, yeah, a bit like that. Paul Lucas. Have you been in one? You'd look good with a yellow stripe down your trousers. Mike Rippon. Did your colleagues know you had the gift? No, I never mention it to anybody. They've got to ask me. Seriously, I would never go up to somebody and say, "Oh, by the way, I'm very psychic, me." I wouldn't do that. No, it's an insult. A lot of people find it offensive. People like my parents, and I mean, they wouldn't have anything to do with it. My father was a Catholic, you see. Any mention of that, you get the cat o' nine tails. My father had a homemade cat o' nine tails that he used to whip me with. I mean, come on. If you did that today, you'd get imprisoned. But he didn't. He was a detective inspector. He thought it was the way it worked. Eric Allison, I believe, has passed away. He has, yeah. Chris Higgins, he phoned me about a week before he died. And he was telling me how he enjoyed his life and all about his children, and his daughter was an accountant and this, that, and the other. It was sad, I liked Eric Allison. I once gave evidence for him at Crown Court. He asked me as a character witness because I only knew Eric Allison as a writer. I didn't know him as a criminal. at all. But my brother did. My brother arrested him. When he'd escaped from Strangeways, it was my brother that locked him up. Sam Sherwood, can prisoners get alcohol in here? They do get alcohol, but it's hooch. It's homemade stuff. They make it themselves. It's illegitimate. They don't legally allow it, but they do manage to make themselves stuff. There's a problem at Wormwood Scrubs. They made a batch that was it had the wrong kind of alcoholic stuff in, and it made a number of the inmates go partially blind, damage the sciatic, damage their optic nerves. Yeah. No, but seen Andy rustling one after he got those. I don't really, Paul. Right. In Leicester jail. All right. I've never been to Leicester jail. Never, thankfully. Did I ever meet David Cook? He killed a teacher, then killed your neighbour. Oh, wow. I didn't never meet David Cook, no. Met a lot of bad bastards. I didn't like the fucking, what was he called? The Black Panther, Donald Nielsen, who'd murdered that girl when he hung her up by a wire in a sewerage plant. Terrible. He was a horrible creature, he was. I gather my brother has now retired from the police. Indeed, he has, Chris Higgins, yeah. My brother was playing rugby until he was 60. You know that? At club level, good club level. He played for the Greater Manchester Police. All his career, he played for Manchester Police. He also played professional rugby league for Oldham. And while he was playing professional rugby league for Oldham, the other side knew it was a policeman, you see. And they, as a team, they snatched him and broke all his face, broke the bones in his face. He was off work for about 3 months. His chief superintendent said, "You're either playing rugby league or you're a policeman. Make your mind up." So he never played rugby league again. He played rugby union, though. He's not like me, my brother, He's 6'3", 6'4". I'm not. I'm about 5'8". The other guy, Kendall, was escorted to court from the special unit in a transit van, chained to the floor. Paul, they got to do what you got to do, what you've got to do, haven't you? I mean, you cannot allow people to escape. I never had anybody escape from me. Never. I was always very cautious. Did I ever meet Peter Sutcliffe? No, I didn't. He wasn't in Strangeways. He was in Armley jail for a while before he was sectioned and sent to Broadmoor so that Jimmy Savile could go in and suck his dick, because that's no doubt what he was doing. Savile was a real dirty bastard, wasn't he? Yeah. He was a mate of my former client, P.J. Proby, who you may remember from the 1960s. He was a pop singer. He used to sing, "There's a place for us." He sang like that, Pervert. Like little girls, 9, 10, 11 years old, that kind of thing. Seriously. I mean, he was a big, handsome-looking lad. Why did he want to do and mess around with little girls for? I can't father it. One bloke ever escaped from Leicester jail, and he broke his legs after he dropped from the wall. I'm not surprised. You've got to learn how to jump, Paul. You've got to learn how to fall. They teach you that. I did P Company with the British Army, which is the parachute course. They teach you how to jump, how to land. Yeah. They reckon Nelson had a diagram of how to escape from Leicester jail, which he was kept in the special. I'm not surprised that that Nielsen was, because he was a nasty piece of work. He thought he was ex-special forces, you know. He wasn't. He was just a trooper, an infantryman. He wasn't in the special forces at all. He'd never... I mean, you can apply, you know, in the British Army, or you could. When I was there in 1968, you could apply to join the special forces, like the parachute regiment. But believe me, it's like being tortured. Seriously. The first day there out running, we ran 10 miles with a pack on our back, and they ran us all around the bloody moors, all around the things, up a thing called Long Valley, back to the barracks where we were, and then they lined us all up and said, right, we're doing it again. And off we went again. Yeah, because you thought you'd finished. A number of people didn't quite make that. Do a lot of prisoners turn gay because they can't get? Really, Sam? What a thought that is. Yeah, of course they do. They call it gay for the stay. I mean, you'd be surprised exactly who does that. I mean, some serious gangsters. I mean, armed robbers and people like that. People doing 18 years and stuff like that. They settle into it quite quickly. I'll tell you, he was a raving gay when he was in. His name was Peter Cook, the Cambridge rapist. Now, you'd think somebody who'd spent their time as a criminal outside raping women, dozens of them. He raped the students at Cambridge. Is why they called him the Cambridge rapist. But you would think that he wouldn't. But when he was at Wormwood Scrubs, he was definitely gay. I caught him on numerous occasions servicing other inmates. You've got to have a bit of discretion when you come into a situation like that. I usually make plenty noise, you know, so that they know I'm arriving. You know, I'm not sneaking up on them, you know, ooh, none of that. Sod that. Some of the staff did, you know. I cannot believe it. John, POA don't care for the prison staff and the other officers. Do I like the POA? Christopher John Wright. No, I do not like the POA, and the POA do not like me. I was expelled from the Prison Officers Association. I reported the Executive Committee for Fraud. Went to Scotland Yard and saw the fraud squad and reported them. They'd lent themselves hundreds of thousands of pounds from the fund of the Prison Officers Association, the Executive Committee. So I reported them. That wasn't very popular, and they expelled me from the union. In my own, I was just trying to do what any decent person would have done. But they'd have to be a bit mad to do it, because you got expelled, you see. Who's the best prison fighter I met? Well, Bootsy, I would say, the school bully. He was absolutely strong as a bloody horse. When he hit you, he went flying backwards. I got a belt from Bootsy once. I asked him for it because I had a frozen shoulder. Oh, it was terribly painful. And I thought, this needs to be given a bat. So I said to Bootsy, will you please do me a favour? Just give me a punch as hard as you can on my arm. He said, are you bloody serious? I said, yeah. Well, it hit me so hard, I went from one side of the rotunda virtually to the other. He was a tremendous fighter. And he used to go in there and say to the inmates on the block, you've got 10 seconds to hit me. He said, and after that, I want to give you the best hiding of your life. I said, so you've got one shot, go for it. I never saw anybody make a dent. Seriously. In the Strangeways documentary, Norman eats the prison food. He used to eat at the, I'll tell you a story about Norman and the food. He used to eat at the canteen. We had a canteen. But the problem with the canteen was the cooks and everybody else that worked there, apart from one officer, were inmates. And on Fridays, they always had fish on Fridays at the canteen at Strangeways, the officers' mess, you know. And Norman used to go and have his fish dinner. But the inmates knew he was coming, so they used to get his fish, a big piece of fish, and piss all over it, so it was marinated in urine. I never dared tell him. I wouldn't eat there. Did he and Brady get a lot of grief from other prisoners? Yeah, he was at the scrubs when I knew him. He was horrible, a really nasty piece of work, that bastard. He was on D-wing at one time, but he only lasted about 3 or 4 days. They snatched him in the recess and poured boiling water all over him. He was covered in bloody blisters. They had to relocate him into the segregator. They took him to the hospital first. And while he was in the hospital, he was buggering the young inmates, the young hospital patients. He was being ably assisted by the inmate known as Graham Young. Yeah, the teacup poisoner. There's a little documentary on him on, I think it's Amazon Prime. It's called The Teacup Poisoner. Graham Young, I knew him quite well. What's your opinion on the Norwegian style of blogging? Yes, absolutely, Paul Lucas. It does. It seems to make sense to me, you know, that they would run the prisons to actually rehabilitate inmates instead of turning them into bitter and twisted ex-cons. Because that's all they're doing at the moment, isn't it? And it's disgraceful what's happening. Locking people up for non-payment of fines and failing to pay for TV licenses, putting people into prison for that. I mean, ordinary, decent working people. And listen, my opinion of the prison system is that it's there to keep the working class in place. Because if you don't do what you're told, you're going to Strangeways, lad. That kind of bollocks. It's Victorian thinking. And nobody at the Home Office has actually engaged the brain into thinking, why are we doing this? No. I think the Norwegian style of prison is extremely effective. It may not be popular with the victims, but it certainly assists the offenders in finding a different pathway. You think trolley dollies in today's prison will last in they're not lasting today. There's one prison, HMP Berwain, where 34 of the prison's female prison staff have themselves been convicted in court and imprisoned for improper relationships with male inmates. It doesn't work. I mean, they've got the bloody Beverly sisters or whatever they call themselves, the Vernon girls, the whole Stess system, I call it. Absolute. And they're doing it because it's cheaper. They can't get male staff to do it because male staff can go and get a job somewhere else and get proper money. They're paying them the basic rate, sticking them on the landings, giving them a set of keys and saying, go for it. It's bloody disgraceful. The POA were a waste of space. Yeah, that's right, Andrew. I tried to get a trade union going that actually represented the basic non-supervisory grade staff. You can't have managers running your bloody union. That's what the POA was. Seriously. No care of the landing staff. Yeah, that's right. Hey, Andrew, there's a little quote from me at the front of my book. Let me read it to you, yeah? Because I have a great dislike, a distaste of the system. I'm not very good with petty authority. The quote says, you can read it here. Here we are. Can you see that? It says, unless you like the taste, don't spend your life kissing backsides. And that's what a lot of the staff were doing. They're doing it to get promoted. Promotion. Stick that. Yeah. Who's Bootsy? Yeah, Bootsy. He's a school bully. He used to be one of the major operators in the block, the segregation unit on D1 landing at Strangeways. Did I ever come across Ronald Bennett? I didn't, Joan. I can't believe that I did. Benjamin, Graham Young was a creep. Graham Young was actually an extremely intelligent man. Extremely. But he was a psychopath and as mad as a box of frogs. Completely. When I was at Ashworth Hospital for the criminally insane, I was working with the hospital service at the time. Graham Young was in there and he recognised me from Wormwood Scrubs 5 years before. He just come up to me and said, "Oh, Mr. Sutton, how are you doing?" And he'd only met me a couple of times. He didn't really know me. He only met me. And he was trying to show me how to kill somebody using a homemade poison. He said, "I'll show you how to do this. It might come in handy later in your life." Thankfully, it never has. Graham Young. He was mad. What nonsense they write on the walls of the jail about rehabilitation. They aren't interested in rehabilitation. Come on. They've got something good going there. 80% recidivism. That means 80% of the people who are in prison now will return. Yeah. It's a job. Graham Boardman, the Noonans, the Noonans were in and out of Strangeways. They were Dominic Noonan, yeah. He said he was too strong and too big and too tough for Strangeways. But he didn't say that when he was stark bollock naked down the block, locked in a padded cell. What year was females? I don't know. It was long after my time. What should have happened there? Let me tell you this about females in the prison. The POA should have said to the governor, "You can have as many female prison officers as you want on the landings, but we won't be going on and stand at the gate." But they haven't got any bottle, had they? Did you ever meet Arthur the Fox Hutchinson? Absolute lunatic. I don't know. I honestly don't know him. I don't know, never meet him. I met loads of lunatics. The worst ones were the people who were actually insane. And there were quite a few of them on the way towards Broadmoor, because I used to run the psychiatric ward at Strangeways. And some of them were genuinely insane. And they were extremely dangerous because even they didn't know what they were doing. Yeah. Do you think 30,000 is good for a prison officer? And 25,000. I don't think it's a great deal, actually. I don't think 30,000 is a great deal. Prison officers are paid less than police officers, and it's an equally dangerous job. In 1974, when I applied to join the prison service, a prison officer was being paid more than a police constable. Seriously. Within 5 years, that had changed, and police officers were getting like 5,000 a year more than prison officers. Sam, have you read Ian Brady's book? I have got a copy of it. It was given to me by the man who wrote the foreword. Yeah, I've got a copy of it. It's called The Two Faces of Janus. I'm correct, aren't I? I believe I am. I've got it somewhere. Yeah. Colin Wilson wrote the foreword. I knew Colin Wilson, a very clever individual who wrote over 100 books. I've written 17 books, but I haven't written 100. Have you read an... I have read it. I haven't read it. I've read some of it. It's an excuse for his insanity. He likes to think that he is what Friedrich Nietzsche termed a Superman, man and Superman, Ubermensch. But believe me, I met him and he's definitely Untermensch, a low-life shithouse. Chris, was there many of your ex-colleagues still at Strangeways? Well, yes, quite a lot of them. Quite a lot of them. I'll tell you something else what happened at Strangeways when the riot kicked off. I spoke on Radio 4 about the reasons for this because the inmates were being abused by the staff. And the inmates on the roof were shouting down to the press, "Speak to John Sutton, he'll tell you what's happening in here." And I subsequently was invited by, or requested by, the lawyers acting for the inmates charged with prison mutiny to speak at Crown Court in their defence. So I went to Crown Court and gave evidence against the government. That wasn't very popular, believe me. Did I remember Roy Shaw? Roy Shaw's mainly in Broadmoor, and he was another one that was as mad as a gnat. You've only got to look at Roy Shaw, look in his eyes, yeah? You can see madness. Roy Shaw was mad. The problem with dealing with somebody that's like that, the only way to actually stop them is to stop them properly. You know, you've got to put them out because they won't stop fighting unless they're out. If they're still conscious, they'll keep fighting. So Roy Shaw was an extremely dangerous man. What's this? Did I encounter Roy Shaw? Well, only by reputation. John Griffiths, Bennell hung himself in Strangeways. Oh dear. Just before trial for second murder, served life. Right, well, quite a number of people have hung themselves in Strangeways. It's extremely haunted. Try walking round there at about midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. It's extremely strange because it's very quiet and very cold. I suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder from working in the prisons, believe it or not. I know it's crazy because I do this, but I keep waking up in the middle of the night and having nightmares, recurring nightmares. And the recurring nightmare is me on the landings, walking round in the uniform with a hat on, and I can't find the door, I can't find the way out. There's no way out. I've got to keep walking round and round, and I can't stop the damn dream. I wake up, I think, I'm not going to dream about that again. Go back to sleep, and there I am back on the landings. It's PTSD. Yeah, where are we at? Should have been called the Two-Faced. Robert Ellis, yeah. If you look at the book, it's just a bloody excuse. He's trying to justify his absolutely disgraceful conduct, Ian Brady. My father was one of the detectives that took him to court and was in court with him the day they played the tape recordings of the little girls pleading to be released. He said it was absolutely horrendous. Why are the prison service recruiting agency no vetting people? Yeah, I did a little talk about that because they can't get anybody. I mean, look, when I worked in Wormwood Scrubs in London, I tried to rent a flat for me and my wife because there wasn't any prison accommodation available. Well, that's what they said. And all my wages, every penny of my wages from Wormwood Scrubs was insufficient to pay for the rent of a one-bedroom flat in London. There's no wonder they're using agency staff, because they can't get prison officers to work it for the money that they're paying them. And if you've ever been in places like Wormwood Scrub, you'll understand why people don't want to work there. Sam Sherwood, yeah. Did you ever encounter the Cannock Chase killer Raymond Leslie Morris? I didn't. No. I don't know who he is. Christopher Higgins, did you pay rent on your prison house? It was totally free. Yeah. Absolutely free, yeah. It was part of the contract of employment at the time. Yeah, all you've got to do is go into your library, central library, wherever you live, and ask to see they have like slides of newspapers. Have a look back at the advertisements in the Daily Mirror for 1974. It shows a box advertisement, shows a prison officer in a hat, and it says, "Join the modern prison service." It gives you a list of what you get, and how much the rates is, and you get a free house and all that. That was 1974. And nowadays, I don't know how the hell they cope these days. I mean, the price of renting a house is just horrendous. It would bugger you up, wouldn't it? Why are the prisons... Robert Ellis, did Roy Pretty Boy Shaw fight? He did, yeah. He did. There's a video on YouTube. If you go onto YouTube and type in Roy Shaw v. Lenny McLean, the fight, it shows what happened. He went up to Lenny McLean and headbutted him before the actual fight started, and Lenny McLean absolutely annihilated him. But the problem was Lenny McLean was a big bully himself, the governor. When he put Roy Shaw on the floor, he didn't stop there. He was kicking him and booting him and bashing his head. It's just horrendous, really. I mean, I used to do quite a bit of street fighting and all that, and boxing in the army. But I never would. If somebody's down, you leave them down. That's it. Play fair. Come on. Not Lenny McLean. What we're up to here, yeah. Christopher Higgins. The prison service must have owned thousands of houses. Well, they did own a lot of houses, yeah. And it was becoming, I believe, very expensive to maintain the prison housing estate. So they just sold them off. They sold a lot to staff, at reduced rates. I would have bought mine because I had a reasonably nice house at a place called Flixton near Urmston in Manchester. I had a house on an estate there, a prison house. And at the time, I think they were selling them to staff at £13,000, when they actually were on the market on that estate at about £20,000. So you got them a real considerable discount. Today, those houses are selling for about 240,000, something like that. But there's a lot of trouble with the selling off of the houses, and the problem with prison housing was that you got prison officers in them, and a lot of them just didn't know how to behave. They were definitely a lot of drunks. The guy opposite me, when I lived in a prison house at Cheetham Hill, I heard this hell of a banging and clattering at night, and I looked out. There was a police van, and they were arresting this guy, and they got him out, and they put these big metal handcuffs on him like that, yeah, and he just snapped them off. He was a great big giant Irishman. He snapped the cuffs and went for the police. He ended up in Risley. The prison service must have, yeah, well, how are you in yourself? I'm all right, really. I'm all right. I write books. I'm working. I'm nearly 75 years. I'm 75 in August. So I'm still on my toes, or what's left of them. Alcoholism is a problem in the service. It was, yeah, and it wasn't just the junior staff, the governors as well. We had one governor come in, brought in by the police at about 11 o'clock at night, drunk and disorderly in Manchester. Seriously. The police said, he says he's the governor. Said he's a deputy governor, yeah. All right. They said, get him somewhere to sleep for the night, or we're going to lock him up. Imagine that. Deputy governor come in fighting drunk. From your experience, would you say that most of the nonces are mentally impaired? There's a problem. I mean, interfering with children, I don't know how people can do it. So they're obviously insane out there. There's something wrong with them. I mean, I met lots of them. None of them make sense, and they all argue. That it's the children want this. They want to do this. They're not of an age to make any decisions like that, are they? Keep up the good work. You listen to my stories when going to sleep. Oh, well, thanks, Andy. Andy Sedler. Yeah, I hope you find them amusing. There's 666 of them now. The number of the beast. Yeah. What's my favourite movie about prisons? Bronson. Definitely. It's the nearest to the truth that I've seen. Yeah. The movie about Charles Bronson. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this evening. I sincerely hope that you have enjoyed this. I sincerely hope that you've enjoyed this Tales from the Jails live broadcast, and I'll be back tomorrow. Anybody got any final questions before we bid you good night? Yeah, I intend to do. I'm going to have an early night tonight. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you did. Thank you very much, everybody. And don't forget, it's out there on Amazon. My latest book, Part 3. We'll meet again. There you go, singing. Ding dong. Hey, got the song dinger. Bye.